Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to today's live session. I'm very excited for the conversation that we're going to have today because we are going to unlock the secret to finding happiness now. And no, I'm not going to tell you to just sit down and take a few deep breaths and relax. That's not what we're talking about. Well, although that's an amazing thing that you should absolutely do, which I personally do as well, a lot of times what happens is we take that on to be is just a temporary solution. What I want to help you create today is a state of happiness, joy, and gratitude that you can actually consciously experience in your life, not when you go into a meditative state, but even when you're going through different experiences of everyday life, even the unpleasant experiences. Because that, I believe, is the true test of whether we are truly happy and energetic or not. Because anybody can feel that in a good time. The question is, can you be that person even when times are not good, even when times are not there to support you, and yet your energy, your focus, your drive that still remains at an all time high? If you can be that person, the world's got nothing against you. You can beat the world, and that's exactly what we are learning to create today. So, before we go over there, right, I want to take a moment to define what happiness itself is because so many of us have many varying definitions. A lot of people make the mistake of assuming that happiness equals pleasure. And I want to break that myth for you today. Happiness does not equal pleasure. Pleasure is a temporary state of heightened emotions that you feel when you do something that feels really good. But the thing is, it doesn't always leave you happy. Like you ask people who sometimes party way too much or who spend way too much time on Netflix. They're having lots of pleasure, no doubt. But you ask them later on, and you'll see they're not feeling happy. They're not feeling energetic. They're not feeling excited. Why? Because they were focused only on the pleasure part, that was the comfort part, but not the happiness part. Real happiness, real joy, and real success in life comes from a lens of growth. When we are growing, we are happy. I mean, look at every life form around you, okay? Take a plant in your house if you have one. If there's no growth in the plant, what's happening to the plant? Is it happy or is it like dying down? It's the latter one, right? It's not a happy growing plant. It's not green. If there's no water, if there's nothing happening, the plant dies. The buds, they don't turn into flowers, they never bloom. Well, just like that, the simple rule of life is if you're not growing, you're dying. If you're not growing, you're dying. And the reason so many of us struggle with happiness is because we confuse between pleasure and happiness. We think that whatever's happening in the short term, whatever makes us feel good, that's happiness, but that's usually just a distraction and an escape. Now, I'm not saying those things are bad, not at all. But what I am saying is if you want to experience true, fulfilling happiness, you need to learn how to grow. You need to show up as that person. And I'll just give you a beautiful example of something that happened in a conversation today only that I was having with one of my coaches. And while we were talking in the afternoon, she was telling me more about her experience where she was in a workshop for 14 hours in a day. She's never done that level of learning before. And while we were talking, I asked her, well, while you were focused on that growth action, even though you slept only 4 hours, even though you were attending for 14 hours, which is something you'd never done before, how was your energy and how was your happiness? She said, oh, it was amazing. I loved it. And then I asked her another question. And I said, well, think about it. If you were to watch Netflix for 14 hours straight, would you feel the same way? It's like, no. In fact, I watch a movie, 2, 3 hours later, I start getting a headache. Now, a lot of you would have had that experience as well. You're doing something that feels pleasurable, you're doing something that feels good, but you're realizing by the end of it that your body's not feeling it, your body's not there. And that's what she would feel when she would watch movies, even if it's just for 2 or 3 hours. And has she stopped watching movies? No, she still does. But now that she's taking actions towards growth, now that she's aligning herself towards becoming a better version, even if she's sitting 14 hours for a workshop, does she mind it? Not at all. Because now she knows and now she is clear that I can be the best version of myself and I can take those actions. And now she knows that happiness is in the growth, not just in the pleasure. And that's what I mean by when I say, as you've read on the title and thumbnail of this video, master your perceptions. Because in our lives, the way we perceive things is the way they are. And here's a beautiful example for me to help you understand this concept of perception, which ties back into this lens of happiness that we just discussed. If you spend, okay, this is an important thing. If you spend too much time every single day reading or watching the news, you're going to actually start believing the world is doomed. If you see the way news channels today, they portray wars, they portray scenarios, they pretend it's like the end of the world. Nothing's going to survive. There's going to be so many problems. This drought, this attack, this, that. So it's like whole news is full of that. And if that's your only lens on the world, you're going to end up assuming from that narrow lens, from that narrow perception, the world is doomed. The world cannot survive. There's literally nothing that can happen. But if instead of that, you take a better, more positive, more empowering lens towards life, towards growth, towards success, you read the news, but also you learn to read and understand history. Now, when you do that, here's the amazing thing that happens. You start to see patterns and you start to see, wait a minute, this whole mongering, fear mongering that's going on, it doesn't hold true. Because if I look at the trends of the world, even though there are some wars, even though there are some problems, we're actually living in the most peaceful time the earth has ever seen. And then suddenly, you're not so worried about the world because you have a broader lens, you have a bigger lens, you now have a different approach towards understanding the situation. Well, happiness depends on perception. As we say, the beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder, happiness lies in the eyes of the perceiver. If for every single event that's happening in your life, you are being the person who runs to pleasure, or you're being the person who doesn't perceive happiness in growth, or you're being the person who, like a constant news consumer, only looks, absorbs, and understands the negative side of life, then no matter how hard you try, you're never going to be happy. And I know you're going to set conditions and you're going to set these benchmarks in your life that when I have this much money, I'm going to be happy. When I'm married to the love of my life, I'm going to be happy. When I'm happily doing the career I want, then I'm going to be happy. When I have kids, then I'm going to be happy. Then before you know it, the condition becomes when I retire, then I'm going to be happy. When I divorce the person I thought was the love of my life, then I'm going to be happy. When my kids finally grow up and leave the home, then I'm going to be happy. How long will you keep the conditional cycle going? How long will you keep deceiving yourself of the happiness you know you deserve? The question to answer is yours. I leave it up to you. But if I know one thing about human beings, it's that we don't want to delay our happiness. We don't want to delay the wonderful experience of growth that comes with being one with the work we're doing, with being one with the person that we are becoming, with being one with the people around us. And that's why the first lens, that happiness comes from growth, is so important. And then the second lens, that if you only keep having these negative conditions and if you keep perceiving life the way you are right now perceiving in an imbalanced way where you're only seeing the negatives, then you're going to be doomed. You're not going to be able to find happiness in the now. The people who do, it's not that their lives are perfect, but here's what they do differently. They understand that they can control and they can change their perceptions. So something bad happens, like, okay, cool, a new learning moment. Let me grow from here. Something great happens, like, wonderful. I'm so happy. I'm so excited. Let me continue working to make sure I deserve this and I sustain this. Everything that they do comes from this desire of one constant growth and improvement, because they know if you're not growing, you're dying. So they're very clear on that. They're prioritizing that growth which brings them the happiness they want. By the end of the day, their bodies can be physically exhausted, but look at any high achiever, mentally they're so fulfilled, so happy, and so satisfied. They're like, if this were the last day of my life as well, I'm happy with it, because I know I spent it the right way. I spent it being happy. And on the other hand, they also know that they have to be in control of their perceptions. If they take every loss, every failure, every setback to the heart, not going to survive very long. They don't have the human skills to survive an environment that feels so hostile. None of us do. But the skill we always possess is the skill of controlling, directing, and creating our perceptions. So, here's an exercise I want you to try, okay? I want you to make a list of the 10 things that are bothering you right now. And as you have that list, I want you to now shift that list into a method and into a way where you can look at it and at the same time see the beauty, the grace, the order, and the amazing balance that exists in the same situation. Because it's like being that warmonger, right? Or the fearmonger who's only watching the news. The world is doomed, the world is doomed, the world is doomed. Well, just expand your lens. Look at history and you'll see there's nothing to worry about. We're living in some of the most peaceful times. The world has gone through these cycles. The world will go through these cycles. Not a big deal. Well, just like that, in your life, I want you to now ask these questions to yourself. Take those very negative situations that you've been focused on with only one lens of fear and shift the lens into something you think can come positively or better out of it. And as I've done this in my life, right, I've noticed one big shift that has happened. I've stopped getting triggered by small things. Earlier, if my light isn't good, if my tripod isn't working, if anything has gone wrong in my slightest of plans, I would think, hey, you know what? The whole thing is ruined. The whole day is wasted. The whole project is gone. Only a small thing has gone wrong. But in my mind, I'm saying the whole thing is gone. Now, of course, if I feel that, I'm going to attract that and I'm going to be that person. But then I learned to question myself. Then I learned to go deeper. Then I learned to take control of my perceptions. And now, there have been quite a few times I've encountered technical glitches that were so severe and so confusing that the version of me before would have been like, what is even happening? I can't handle it. I would have been frustrated and I would have been irritated. I deal with it calmly and I'm like, okay, cool. Part and parcel of the game. I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm going to continue building anyways. Things have stopped triggering me negatively because I have learned to control my perceptions. And as I've learned to control my perceptions, I've created happiness in the now as I'm focusing on happiness from the lens of growth rather than pleasure. So I've given you quite a few things here to think about. To recap, the way to be happy now is to first change and shift the lens and perception of your definition of happiness itself. If it's tied to pleasure, you're on a hedonic treadmill. You're just running, 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 never quite getting enough. But if you're ready, and if you decide, and if you know I am going to change and I am going to grow. And growth is the law of life, growth is the law of happiness. You start to learn happiness from a whole new lens. You start to take action on happiness from a whole new lens. And then the second thing is, even for the negative situations of life, even for the challenging situations of life, it is your perception that creates your suffering, not the situation itself. And when you can change that perception and empower yourself with a better perception, boom, happiness becomes a reality in the now. Your life doesn't have to be perfect for happiness to come in. Your life doesn't have to be amazing for magic to happen. When you feel that it is amazing, then magic happens. And the way to feel that is to control your perceptions, to go deeper, to question yourself, and to really think and understand what is really true. And the moment you answer that question honestly, the moment you control your perceptions, happiness stops being a far away dream. It starts being your reality today. So promise me that you'll take action on this. You'll make that list. You'll see the positives. You'll see how you can shift your perception to come to a more balanced, more sorted level of life. And when you do, happiness is going to become your everyday reality. Thank you so much for watching this video, for tuning in live. I mean, these sessions are a way for me to feel that happiness, because if I'm here, if I'm delivering, I'm happy. That's my only condition. And the more I feel this, the more I grow this way, I continue to be able to serve you more as well. So thank you so much for being a part of this amazing journey every single day. I absolutely love you for that. I adore you for that. Thank you so much for giving me this honor of serving you. I'll see you now on Monday with another live session where we take this even forward. Till then, tonight and on the weekend, know happiness is your birthright, and you can build that happiness the moment you control your perceptions. Thank you so much. I'll see you soon. Bye.